Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. That theme music means it's time for our weekly confab with Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Before we get to Ted, those food deserts that mayors like BLM Brandon and Triple Threat before him complain about, the lack of investment in the west and south sides,
and
for
that's
example.
Why we're going to have a government-run grocery store.
Exactly.
What are we going to call it again, Dan?
Gimme that. Gimme that grocery stores. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Still waiting for that to come online. Yeah.
BLM Brandon may find out that running his Gimme Dat grocery store in places that have been turned over to criminals to prey on the law-abiding is more difficult than he might think. Give an example. This is out of California. It's out of L.A., Compton to be specific. But, of course, it has application to every other big city in the country, with mayors like BLM Brandon and prosecutors like Kim Foxx. LA's got those. Compton. Ruben Ramirez Jr. is the proprietor of Ruben's Bakery, which was started by Ruben Ramirez Sr., his father. And you may have seen this one because of just the mass number of individuals that engaged in looting when they did one of those back the car through the front window, smash, and everybody run in and take everything you can do. You take everything you can get your hands on.
Yeah, like what they tried to do at the Prada store yesterday, and a cop got shot.
Exactly right. 100. So estimated 100 people. SUV smashes the front window of the bakery. And this is in Compton, tough neighborhood, as everyone knows, straight out of Compton, NWA. 100 people. And this, of course, is all caught on security camera. Here's Ruben Ramirez talking about it, the $70,000 in damage that was done to his business.
The same folks involved in that street takeover, well, they took over Ruben's, not only stealing everything they could carry, but what they couldn't carry, they basically destroyed. It had to be heartbreaking to watch that video.
Oh, it's very heartbreaking to see, what my family has built over the years to just in 5-6 minutes just be destroyed. It's just, it angers you.
You told me your parents and your dad is, I don't know if he's still sitting over there. He's been busy in the kitchen. Yeah. He's, 83 years old?
Yeah, my dad's 83. He's been retired, but he still loves to come and, help where he can and just take care of it. This is his baby. I think he loves the store more than he loves me, so. Yeah.
I doubt that, but and this really touched my heart. You told me that your dad cried when he saw the video of that mob just destroying. And you got to think, people steal. You don't justify stealing, but not only did they steal things, they just broke things just to break them.
Yeah, it was just, they broke our scales. We had to get new scales. I mean, our cash registers, I get it. They broke them because of, there's money inside them. But yeah, it was just a mess. They left a bunch of stuff overturned. All the meat we had to throw away. We don't know what, glass was in there or just people touching it. So yeah, we lost a lot of merchandise.
Ted Dabrowski, President of Wirepoints. Ted, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's a sad continuation of what we saw during the riots across the country. And, this kind of behavior was what do you want to call it, allowed. It's called reparations. It was part of the equity.
Symbolic taking.
Symbolic, yeah. It's just property. The insurance will pay for it. It doesn't really matter. And, it's amazing, but that stuff stuck. It's stuck, and it's still sticking today, and it's why we're seeing this kind of behavior 3 years on from that, and why we're seeing that kind of behavior on the robberies, on the car thefts. It's all just part of the normality now, and I don't know how we change that new normal, but it's there for now.
There's talk of putting big barriers in front of every store on Michigan Avenue now and on Oak Street. And that, Alderman Hopkins wants to use TIF funds for that. But TIF funds are going to migrant shelters. That's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, for schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, turn every place into Fort Knox at taxpayer expense.
We'll have big cement balls in front of every designer store, Dan.
Don't prosecute organized retail thieves. Just continue. We need more security cameras. We need, stone posts and barricades and security guards. And gosh, none of it seems to stop. I wonder what message all of this, except prosecuting the offenders, is sending to the offenders.
Well, and it comes back to your question that you asked right before the break was, it's no wonder you have food deserts out there, because the more that you increase costs of security cameras and guards and whatever kind of protections you want to put in front of buildings, the more expensive it becomes to have a business. And it's already tough enough to run a business in places like Englewood or wherever, where you have massive crime, low incomes, and a disrespect for property. So it's the more that you fail to prosecute, the more this can be impossible to have businesses, even a Walmart, right? Even they can't afford to be there. So
I wonder where that lack of respect for property comes from, too. Other people's property, other people's things, and just the sort of general barbaric behavior that you see caught on security cameras all the time. A carjacking, an assault, throwing a log at somebody's head walking down the street, the Prada example. And by the way, that Prada guy, the guy who shot the cop,
yeah.
Well, what did I read about 15 different arrests? In 15 different arrests of this guy, the charges were dropped. I'd like to see a little bit more on the record in terms of handling what apparently was a habitual criminal. But this is, again, just all more of the same. I guess all we can do is tell stories, and
hope that something will stick.
Hope that something will stick between people's heads in this city.
Well, yeah, I think that's the question. When do the communities, as we call them, right? When do they get sufficiently ticked off enough to act? It's they bear the brunt. Of course, it's all spread out now more throughout the city, these crimes, but it's the low income communities that bear most of the brunt, and they should be the ones going crazy. I mean, you look at this number of motor vehicle thefts. We almost hit 30,000 in 2023. That's up from 9,000 in 2019. So, like you said, people don't care about property anymore. They think it's theirs. They can just take it, and it's okay. And again, that also happens when you raise the felony threshold to $1,000. I mean, you can steal stuff that's worth a lot and not get busted for it. You'll get released.
Something else that people can't seem to get people to care about. The Inspector General for CPS, for the Office of Inspector General, just issued a report on CPS. And, it's the usual, some $23 million in electronic devices were lost.
77,000 computers.
Right. And you've got examples of kids or adults or both losing them multiple times, 3, 4, 5 times. Yeah, I wonder if they're losing them to family members and friends. Anyway, I'm not, the money is the money. Nobody cares. I mean, we could spend $100,000 per kid. It wouldn't change anything in CPS, and it wouldn't change anybody's concern about the dollars and cents. This is the one that still baffles me. The Sexual Allegations Unit inside CPS. Since its inception in 2018, they've opened 2,188 cases. They've substantiated policy violations in 363 investigations. Of the 446 complaints submitted to the sexual allegations unit, that is. 2/3 were in the non-sexual category. A third alleged sexual abuse, physical contact, and sexual communications or grooming. Well, a third of 446 is like 147.
That's a big number.
Mm-hmm. Also, this it's just a lot. I mean, I know it's a small percentage, but it was a small percentage for the Catholic Church too, and there was proper outrage that anything that systemic was occurring. And yet here, also, the OIG has recommended CPS improve vendor and volunteer training surrounding its sexual misconduct policies. Yeah. Because 31 vendor employees and volunteers were found to have engaged in some sort of sexual misconduct, ranging from sexual comments directed at students to actual sexual abuse. So OIG's got some recommendations about how they can tighten that up a little bit. But I don't know. Again, small percentage, but a small percentage of a big number. I'm talking about the employees and vendor employees in CPS is still a big problem. Hundreds of cases of sexual abuse alleged and substantiated by this unit within the district. And other than a summary of the report in a couple of outlets, nothing.
You know, Dan, this is one of the biggest untold stories, I think, in Illinois, in Chicago. And I spent a good bit of time on this a few months ago, but it's hard to get all the data that you want because, well, you just can't get it. But I looked at this, and if you look at the Archdiocese of Chicago over the last couple of decades, or whatever, let's call it the last decade, the allegations are a handful, maybe a handful, even less than a handful. And then you look at the CPS and what goes on there. And remember, we're looking at stuff that's reported. God knows what's not reported anymore. And I think CPS has got to be something far worse than what you've seen in the churches. But we can't get there. We can't figure that out. But it needs to be exposed more and more. And there's been some work done on that. But I think that the numbers are pretty large, even if, like you say, it's a small percentage. And there's much more than meets the eye here. We got to dig into this more.
Where are all those storefront preachers and community activists that show up for peace marches and to give a quote to ABC7 about the shooting du jour? Where are they with respect to the extent that kids in CPS are being sexually exploited? I mean, this is a question I don't think it has an answer, but it's another thing where I can't understand parents are not communicating with other parents, communicating with other teachers and administrators, communicating with people that like to preen before the cameras and address this in a meaningful way. But nobody except the Inspector General seems particularly motivated.
Well, they won't tell parents who these teachers are either. Is there somebody in our school that we should be aware of? And they won't say a word because they're protecting that person.
Oh, we're back to protecting.
It's true.
Protecting the unions and
yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's part of it for sure.
All right, Ted, let's move over to Mr. Pritzker because his latest emergency disaster proclamation. First it was COVID. What did we have? 2 years straight of emergency proclamations, and now we have an emergency proclamation 18 times in a row for immigrants, illegal immigration.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So here we go again, right? Here you've got Governor Pritzker parroting a lot of what President Biden says about the lack of democracy, the loss of democracy. And here he goes again with a emergency declaration, the 18th, like you said, in a row on the immigrants, and it's for a crisis that he's helping create, right? He's saying, look, I'm going to give Medicaid to all these immigrants. I'm going to give legal services, job readiness support, rent, food, health screenings, all that. It's a sanctuary state and a sanctuary city. They're providing all these services, and then, when he's offering all that stuff for free, he says, we have a crisis now, so I better implement emergency powers, be the autocrat that I need to be to manage this crisis. So it's hypocrisy all the way. And unfortunately, he's going to get away with it again because he was never held to account for the first time he did this during COVID.
Right. Certainly the General Assembly is not going to bother. Go ahead, Governor, spend whatever you got to spend to make sure that, we continue to increase our constituency, I suppose. On the Medicaid piece, healthcare for migrants, I've seen some numbers that that cost is approaching $1 billion. Have you seen that?
Yeah, well, we know that it was 500 that they budgeted. Then they came out and said that we're going to be at 800. And given the massive numbers that are coming in, and we're talking about not just the illegal immigrants that we know about, but all the others that come through. I mean, you got to assume that we're going to be way over $1 billion.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's fine in the suburbs because as the mayor of Western Springs, Heidi Rudolph, says, welcome to Western Springs. Now get your ass on the train to Chicago. And the same thing's going on in all those suburbs, so everything's fine. As long as Chicago, it's all sent to Chicago. We'll send the cash to Chicago because we don't care about that either. And, carry on.
Yeah, I loved Wilmette. Wilmette had 5 buses come in, and they said, well, we're not going to make any statements or we're not going to change our policy. We're going to help out, and of course they just put them right on the Metro or the whatever CTA to go back downtown.
And some people dropped off bags of groceries, I saw. Oh, they're so valiant. I mean, way to take time out of your day to help the less fortunate.
That is, you can always count on those Wilmetians to be their brother's keeper. Get your ass on that train. Ted Dabrowski, President, Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news